It's Saqib Uddin in the Matchroom Boxing Gym in London, and with me I have Conor Benn. How you doing, Conor?
Yeah, good mate, just finished a hard spar, so it's hard graft, but I'm alright.
Well, Conor, you're next out on April 20th at the O2 Arena. I understand it's been a very long camp for you, so how excited are you to get back in the ring, and how's preparation been so far?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, my career's been dramatic so far, from my facial allergy when I had my fight in New York a week before the fight, as well as suffering a broken jaw before that, so I was out for another 8-9 months. And then also having a tendon injury in my hand, my last fight. So by the time I fight April 20th, it would have been about 10 months since my last fight. So, I'm only getting better, only getting stronger with age.
Have you got any updates who your opponent could be next?
We're looking at a few. It's my first fight back. But obviously don't want to push over, want to get someone who's in for it. And, it's going to be a great year. It's all learning, it's all growing. It's not like I've had 10 months off. Doing nothing. I've had 10 months of, maturing physically, mentally, and maturing in the game.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Conor, you had some ups and downs last year with the injuries and being inactive, and having only had 2 fights. But looking back now, Conor, how did you assess last year?
It was a year where I picked up my first title. A closure of the fight I had with the Frenchman, people know it was a hard fight, first fight, and second fight I thought I'd get the better of him. Second fight I did with ease, won by unanimous decision, and that was that chapter closed. So now I can progress on with my career. I've got the WBA Continental title, and ready to start knocking more people out.
Well, a lot of people don't see the sacrifices and hard work behind the sport, but with the injuries, Conor, how was you coping, not just physically, but mentally?
Mentally it's hard because you're seeing everyone do their thing and, you're just sitting at home, what do you do? This is what I enjoy doing, I love training, loving with the boys in the gym, so, I had the first surgery about the cause I messed with the healing, so I had to have a second surgery, and then that proper disheartened me, which is why I was out for so long again. And everything happens for a reason. When I broke my jaw, I come back better. You got to look at the positives. When you start looking at the negatives on it, it'll do you in up here. You start going mad. So when having that 10 months off, I worked on things that I couldn't work on because I was always in training or preparing for a fight or dieting. So I worked on myself. Out of them 10 months, worked on me.
Well, Conor, you've been in the sport for 3 years now, had an unbeaten record of 13 wins. But what have you made of your progression so far in the professional ranks, considering you had a very limited amateur background?
I think that's what people forget. I think it's hard work that gets me through. There's no slacking here. Everyone knows I graft hard, very hard. Because if there's anything that's going to get me through, it's going to be that. When you lose in the amateurs, no one cares. Brush it off, get up, go again, no one cares. In the pro, it's the end of the world, so there's a lot of pressure to keep that out, but, I've had fights, hard fights against people I shouldn't have had hard fights against. I've always found a way to come through, and I always will find a way to come through. I'll do what needs to be done, and that's been shown, and a good pair. Do you know what I mean? That's been shown, and all these amateurs that come on, they don't have to have that test yet because they're so gifted technically because they've been doing it from the age of 7. So in time I'm only going to get better, but because I'm in the public eye and people want to say, oh, you're no good, this, you don't just all of a sudden just become an amazing fighter overnight. It don't work like that, and if it did, everyone would. It takes years and years of graft, sticking to it, training hard, repetitiously. Why do I keep doing this? Why don't I fight like how I spar? Why don't I? Well, because there's the pressure to deal with as well on the night. It's not just jumping in the ring and going, there's that expectation, that pressure. I said to Tone, listen, Tone, I don't want no bum. I don't want no road sweeper because that sticks more pressure on me to get him out of there. Give me someone who's decent, who's credible, who I can work with, and then there's that less pressure because people expect me to not do as well or expect me to lose. I'd rather that. I'd rather be stuck in with a world champion tomorrow than stuck in with a bum and then have a hard fight with a bum. Then it's like, well, what am I in this game for? can't even put in a good performance against someone who I should be knocking out. You know, so it's all learning. I'm 22 years young, so I'm still working it all out. I'm getting it. It's coming together.
Well, Conor, with the inactivity and the injuries last year, what can we expect from Conor Benn this year that perhaps we didn't quite see last year?
I don't know if you can expect a devastating knockout or an entertaining knockout, a fight. Just me. You can expect me. I'm not going in there going to say I'm going to box or I'm going to stand the back foot or I'm going to be a counter. I'm just going to go in there and do what I do best, and whatever that is on the night, I'll get it done.
Well, if they don't recognise the face, they'll certainly remember the surname, as you're the son of British boxing legend Nigel Benn. But how much of an influence do you feel your father has shed on your career?
Definitely, my dad's. People say I fight like my dad. It's probably because I look up to him so much and watched his fights. You know, so much that it just I fight like him. Do you know what I mean? Because when you admire someone so much, you become like that person. When you love someone that much and you think, yeah, I'd die to be the man you are, half the man you are. You know, you just become what you want to become. You know, and if I become 10% of what my dad was, I'll be very content.
Well, let's talk about the surname. Is there any additional pressure at all carrying the Benn name and live up to your father's legacy?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked this all the time, and yeah, there definitely, of course there is. Your dad's a Hall of Famer, 2-time world champion, in the Guinness World Record, in the WBC Hall of Fame. You know, that's quite an achievement for my old man. So, of course there is, but people are starting to realise that I'm me for me. Do you know what I mean? Me, my last fight, there was like 15,000, 18,000 there at the O2, going mad to see me fight this guy because my first fight was such an entertaining fight. Now, the name can carry you so far, but people won't turn up to watch you fight if you're boring. That's me. When I got a standing ovation at the York, that was me. Do you know what I mean? So, and people, as I said, the name can only take you so far. And then you've got to have something different about you. And, people know they get their value for money when they watch me fight.
I understand it's still very, very early in your career, Conor, but how far do you feel you can go in boxing?
I don't know. I think I can go all the way. You can't rush these things. It all takes time. People say, when I was knocking all the people out there saying, when's he going to fight Kell Brook? When's he going to fight Khan? What? Like 6 fights in, just because I'm knocking people out. People are very, just don't get it. Do you know what I mean? So it takes years and years and years of practice, hard work, repetition, dedication, and make mistakes, you go again, you make mistakes, you go again. If I have an unblemished career by the time I retire, I'll be very, 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 very surprised. Very surprised. So, I'm going to have ups and downs, but it's that attitude of coming back and learning from it that makes you. Do you know what I mean? All these hard fights I've had, if I didn't have them, I wouldn't know so much. So it's all growing, it's all learning.
Well, Conor, last year you had 2 absolute wars against Cedric Paynard, but looking back now, Conor, what was the whole experience like for you, and what do you feel you learned from those victories?
Well, as you know, I had 5 fights in 6 months that year when I fought Paynard. I had that facial allergy, as you know, which was very bad, as you could see, and that was a week before the fight. My comeback was jet lag tired. I had like 3-day Reebok shoot requirement. I blew up overweight because I didn't think I was fighting again. I had Dunkin' Donuts out in New York. I was eating every corner I was walking. I thought, I'll just have another one. I didn't have a coffee with that one last time. And so I come back, had to shed the weight, had that skin allergy. There was a lot of things going on in my personal life. I thought, you know what? I've knocked all the last 4 people out with decent records, undefeated some of them. Just come and do nothing. Bang, 1, 2. Whoa. Okay then, here we go. And then all I had to show was a pair of cojones, which I did. So, and then that sort of stunted it a bit. Also released a bit of pressure because people now can see I'm still learning. There's a lot to work on. But then I thought, I need to fight this geezer again. I need to fight him again. And fought him again and done exactly what I thought I'd do. Put him down 3 times in that fight. Put him 2 times down in the first fight, 3 times down in the second fight, and won by unanimous decision. So, with the injury. So, you know, what can you say to that? Shows a lot of that. Didn't have to fight him again. Really didn't. Like, I chose to. I wanted to fight him again. I needed closure.
Well, Conor, you have been very vocal on a domestic fight with Josh Kelly, but what is it about that fight that stands out the most for you?
Well, if you put together all my explosive knockouts, let's forget my hard fight against Payne, who was my boogeyman. You know, he was just my boogeyman. I just struggled with his style. He switched southpaw the second fight, made it double difficult for me. It took me a couple of rounds to realise what I went home saying it's not right here. It took me a couple of rounds to realise that he's southpaw, and then as soon as we started realising that, I dealt with him, no problem. But when you put together all my knockouts and that, they're all explosive, calculated. You know, I'd miss with the right, come back with the left, and it'd often be the left that sparks him out. You know, so you can look good fighting either from GB pedigree. Great, good fighter, obviously. You know, so and he can look good against people who are fighting single 1-2s and very stiff and slow with it. But when you're fighting someone from explosive power who comes from all angles and can do for 10 rounds, because it's proven I can do for 10 rounds and go hard, like no problem. You know, and I can take a dig, get up and still come on, keep going. You've got to remember that guy I fought that Payne had about 102 kickboxing fights, 60 of them were knockouts, and only lost about 5 of them. Now, listen, that's kickboxing. To do that, you've got to be something about it, do you know what I mean? So I can obviously dig. You know, so I just believe I'll have the explosiveness, the aggression, the pressure, the attitude, and you know that'll get me through that fight over 12.
Well, Kelly does have a superior amateur background, like you mentioned, with his gold at Rio, and has had 8 fights in the professional ranks so far, and has won Commonwealth and WBA international titles. But how do you rate Kelly?
He's a good fighter, but how will he get on when someone comes and sticks it on him? You know, that's the question people don't know, because that Chris George that he fought was absolutely shocking, just quit as well. Number one, it says enough about him. Number two, very stiff, and even his left hooks were catching Kelly. Do you know what I mean? So well, my left hooks, they put people to sleep. Do you know what I mean? Half my knockouts, I think 90% of my knockouts come from my left hook. Do you know what I mean? So when you wanna talk like that, anyone can look good against stiffs. I look good against all them 6 undefeated kids that I knocked out. I look brilliant. And then I fought a person who could hit and come forward and can take a hit. I thought, oh, okay then. You know, so that's when that shows. You know, in this game you can be talented, but heart gets you through some of these hard fights. When you get hit and you think, oh, you know, that gets you through.
Well, Kelly, stablemate Harlem Eubank has been calling you out. Is that a potential fight on your radar for this year?
No, not really. No, not really. He's like lightweight. He's had 2 knockouts out of 7 fights. He almost lost his second or third fight. Matchroom didn't put him on no more Matchroom shows because he was boring. So, no, not really. Yeah, the names go, but I think he should, you know, try and think about learning before he thinks he can step up to a welter who can knock people out and think he can have a chance. Don't really work like that. So, I mean, if he wants to step up, so be it. But, you know, don't make no sense. So, yeah, down the line, if he keeps winning, which I can't see, his weight or light welter or welter, I don't know. I don't really follow his career. I only watch the Sky or Matchroom or Frank Warren shows or shows out in America. So I haven't really seen if he's fought anyone or, you know. But he should focus on getting better himself before he starts calling out a welter who can bang.
Well, a couple of weeks ago we saw Chris Jenkins become British champion over Johnny Garton. You was ringside. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Jenkins looked good. Garton looked not the best I've seen him, but you know, Garton and me would have been a hell of a fight, and you know, it's just a shame I didn't have that fight. I couldn't have that fight because of my injury. So, you know, but everything happens for a reason. I never heard of Jenkins until then. So, but he looked good. He looked alright.
Well, Conor, there's a big fight happening in your weight division next month. Fellow Brit Amir Khan is taking on WBO welterweight world champion Terrence Crawford. What's your take on the fight, and how do you see it planning out?
I don't know. I see Samuel Vargas put Khan down. Was it 3 times or was it just once? Just once. Yeah, and I think Crawford's different breed. So, but I think Khan's like Hansby would give anyone trouble, anybody trouble, you know. So it's just, I hope I'm wrong. I think it's a matter of when Crawford figures him out, it'll be game over. I hope not, because you know it'd be good to see Khan bring home the win, but you know I just don't know.
Absolute pleasure for his time and effort today, Conor. Conor Benn, full Fight Up TV.
Thank you.